Hi, welcome back to Sneak Your Movie. Today I am going to recap an American action film called The Equalizer. Robert McCall is up early preparing and going to his position at home shop. He is regarded and popular among his colleagues. He sits to eat with his companion Ralphie. Ralphie takes a nibble of his sandwich and McCall hears a crunch. There's contributes his sandwich. McCall reminds Ralphie he should be dropping load for his test to turn into a safety officer. Most evenings, McCall goes to a coffee shop where he takes a book. He is right now perusing The Elderly Person and the Ocean. A little kid in the spot inquires as to whether the man in the book has gotten the fish. He says not yet. The young lady completes her pie and goes to flag down a taxi. McCall's colleagues ask him what he used to do prior to working with them. He jokes that he was a pip with Gladys Knight, doing a little move for them. McCall returns to the burger joint that evening and runs into a similar young lady. She sees he's perusing another book. A limo pulls up opposite the cafe. She then, at that point, gets a call from her pimp, Slavy. He tells her she has a client, which is the man in the limo. The young lady would rather not, since this man is a pig. The vehicle entryway opens to uncover a large man sitting tight for the young lady. Hesitantly, she heads outside and goes along with him. The following evening, McCall tracks down the young lady in the burger joint. She has an injury all over. He gives her a donut that he got from work. She sits with him at his table and presents herself as Terry, in spite of the fact that her genuine name is Alina. She hands McCall a CD that she recorded of herself singing. McCall leaves with her and they go for a stroll before a vehicle pulls dependent upon them. It is Slavy and his driver Tavy, Alex Vedov. Slavy gets out and slaps Alina. McCall moves forward until he sees that Tavy has a firearm. Slavy strolls over to McCall and gives him a card for his business to request different young ladies. McCall visits the burger joint again one more evening and gains from the chief that Alina is in the ICU subsequent to being beaten severely. McCall goes there and sees another whore, Mandy, Haley Bennett, close by. Her face is much more swollen and screwed up. Mandy strolls by McCall, crying. She gets some espresso yet spills over the cup. McCall solaces her and gets some information about Alina. They ride the lift, and Mandy lets him know that Slavy hit Alina, and she hit him back, and was made an illustration of. Mandy says that Slavy likewise tossed sulfuric acid in a young lady's face to make her a model too. He has undermined different young ladies previously. McCall takes a gander at the card that Slavy gave him. He goes to a region over a cafe where Slavy and his men are meeting. McCall enters with an envelope containing $9,800 for Alina's opportunity. From the outset, the thugs giggle at McCall, however Slavy says that the cash would be great to save Alina for 1 month. McCall takes the cash back and begins to leave. He nearly leaves, however at that point chooses to remain and lock the entryway. After cautiously noticing the men and anything weapons they might be holding, he sets the clock on his watch. One of the men points his weapon at McCall, yet he gets the man's arm and makes him shoot Slavy in the throat. He then, at that point, pokes a shot glass into that man's eye. He wounds the third man, and afterward gets a wine tool and over cuts Tavy until he sticks it under his jaw and polishes him off. McCall goes to Slavy's side and watches him gradually kick the bucket. Following the homicides, a Russian mobster named Teddy, Marton Csokas, shows up to Boston to search out the executioner. He collaborates with a gathering of degenerate police to acquire leads. At work, McCall sees Ralphie isn't in. He's informed that Ralphie quit. McCall visits an eatery that Ralphie's mom works at. Ralphie is helping there after a fire broke out, probably unintentionally. Teddy is taken by one of the screwy police, candid bosses, David Harbour, to the working environment of a hoodlum named John Looney, Sean Fitzgibbon, to proceed with his quest for the executioner. John affronts Teddy, and all Russians overall. Accordingly, Teddy hits John with an ashtray while Honest kills John's thugs. Teddy keeps on beating John's face in until the man goes oblivious. McCall is seen playing baseball with his associates. Ralphie appears in a safety officer uniform, having breezed through his assessment. The other two filthy police, Remar, Mike Odia, and Peterson, James Wilcox, are eating at Ralphie's mom's eatery. They blackmail her for a few cash and guarantee that there will be another mishap on the off chance that the cash isn't on time once more. McCall finds them outside the cafe and says he might want to report a wrongdoing. They get over him until he calls one of them by and by. McCall shows them a video he took of them blackmailing an odds and ends shop representative with proof of their admission to lighting the fire at the eatery. McCall lets them know they can either give the cash back, or the video will raise a ruckus around town stations. The police hold him at gunpoint, however McCall rapidly beats them both. They consent and later return the cash to Ralphie's mom. An evildoer comes to home shop and holds the clerk Jenny, Anastasia Moses, at gunpoint until she gives him the cash in the register. McCall serenely comes over and gives him the cash. The hoodlum additionally requests Jenny's ring, which was her mom's. She mournfully hands it to him. McCall notices a few subtleties of the man, similar to his tattoos and his cap. He doesn't take action since youngsters enter the store with their mom. McCall rather follows the man outside and gets a gander at the plates on his vehicle. The police educate them that this was part regarding a series of burglaries from a similar man. McCall then goes to get a demo hammer off a rack. The following day, Jenny tracks down her ring in the register. McCall then, at that point, returns the sledge to the rack subsequent to cleaning it off. Teddy gets some data in regards to McCall, a large portion of which shows up clean with no sign that he has any contribution with Slavy's demise. He and Blunt, alongside another miscreant, stake out while one of their folks attempts to get McCall at the burger joint. McCall realizes the man is planning something sinister, and he inquires as to whether they're hanging tight for any other individual. The man takes out a weapon and begins to stroll over to him. A truck pulls up by the coffee shop, darkening the view for Teddy and company. McCall raises a ruckus around town in the stomach with his book, and afterward kills him by throwing his head down on the table and breaking his neck. He then flips off the lights by putting a blade in an outlet. He leaves the burger joint and snaps photographs of Teddy and his men in their vehicle. The hoodlums follow McCall home. He heats up a honey to tend an injury supported from the shooter. He figures out how to get out before Teddy and his hooligans show up. From another room, McCall watches them from cameras concealed around his loft. Teddy realizes he is watching. McCall goes to the home of his companions Brian and Susan Plummer, Bill Pullman and Melissa Leo. McCall realizes Susan can accumulate some data with respect to Teddy and his employers. While she is out getting what he requested, Brian lets McCall know that he was accepted to have been dead, however Susan knew reality. At the point when she returns, she lets McCall know that the men he killed were essential for the Russian mafia drove by Vladimir Pushkin, Vladimir Kulich. Teddy, who is truly named Nikolai, is the man Pushkin sends when something should be finished. Remar and Peterson were on Pushkin's finance, yet were found dead a couple of days sooner with their balls passed over and forced on them. Susan cautions McCall that these men won't stop until he and everybody he thinks often about is dead. McCall tracks down Plain and traps him in his vehicle with a hose to harm him with carbon monoxide until he advises him to help him. Straightforward yields and guides McCall to a distribution center where the Russians keep their cash. McCall figures out how to get every one of the hoodlums there to give up, and he has them attached up in a room with all the cash for the police to find, and afterward he liberates the laborers. The police show up to track down the hoodlums and cash, and to capture Candid. McCall then, at that point, goes to Plain's well-being store box and gets his cash, identification, and a USB containing more data in regards to Pushkin and his dealings. He tracks down his oil big haulers and explodes them all. Teddy and his men surpass Home Store and hold McCall's companions, including Ralphie and Jenny, prisoner except if he goes to go up against them. The bad guys track his PDA to anticipate his appearance. At the point when he doesn't seem to show, they nearly execute one of McCall's associates, until music begins playing once again the radio. The hoodlums leave and are consistently killed by McCall as he covertly moves about the spot. He balances one with security fencing and wounds another through the neck, and afterward kills one by exploding him in a room with hydrogen in a microwave. Ralphie goes to help McCall until he has chance in the leg. McCall assists him with getting away until he's left with Teddy after the blast sets off the sprinklers. McCall gets a pneumatic nailer and shoots Teddy with it more than once until he gets him in the throat, killing him. After 3 days, McCall corners Pushkin in his home in Moscow as Pushkin is washing up. McCall turns the lights on and off over and over and runs the sink water. Pushkin goes by the sink and finds McCall has disappeared. He requires his gatekeepers, not understanding that McCall cut the wires and allowed them to be uncovered. The water raises a ruckus around town, and Pushkin is shocked. Different gatekeepers have previously been killed. McCall gets back to Boston and is drawn nearer by Alina, presently not wounded up. She lets him know she's found a genuine line of work and has begun to do some perusing. She says thanks to McCall for what he did, and she kisses him on the cheek before they bid each other goodbye. The last scene highlights McCall back at the coffee shop on his PC. He gets a message requesting help. He essentially answers, yes. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit the like button to help our channel grow. Turn the notifications on so you won't miss any of our new videos.